Hey everyone, today I'm creating 17 unique cards using the Kendra's Card Challenge number 8. You pick 6 pieces of 6x6 pattern paper and then you cut it according to the guide, and then it makes 17 different cards. Because the cards have only a small piece of pattern paper or a few small pieces of pattern paper on each one, I always do use a 7th piece of paper, or I pick a 7th one so that I've got that in reserve if I feel like I need to add a bit more detail. I'm using a whole series of Tonic Studios paper pads, and I've just picked things that have texture but no pattern. So I just thought this would be a unique spin, and I can partner it up with the Outback Eve die cuts. For card number 1, it's a really simple design, and I've just picked this sentiment that I have from a Lawn Fawn stamp set called Magic Messages. I've also got the black strip, and then this is all of the elements complete. For these videos, I normally show gluing together the actual final card, but I've decided to show pulling together the elements this time and then just show a photo of the finished product. Let me know in the comments below which approach you prefer, and that will help me for future video planning. For card number 2, there's only these 2 small elements that came from the original pieces of paper. And so I need to add a layer, so I will use a craft layer in almost all of the cards today. I do prefer that to having too much white space in the background, so you'll see me having these pre-cut and then I just add them to the cards ready for them to be compiled. I'm also doing a whole lot of white layering, just using really cheap white cardstock to make sure that all of the different papers don't compete and that they stand out from that backing paper there. For this card, there's a couple of little tags at the top, so a couple of little banners, and I just used some scrap for those. And then above this mint colour, it was you were supposed to add some paper, so I decided to not add any competing colours and just again use the craft. I'm now having a look through the die cuts to see if there's an element that I can decorate the card with, and I've selected these flowers and a thank you message. So this is card number 2. For card number 3, it has a big giant oval in the middle of the card sketch. I don't have any oval dies in my stash, and I'm not really a huge fan of that look, but I did know that the ephemera has a lot of big posies or a lot of big flowers in it. So I was already trying to work out how I could adjust this sketch slightly to work a little bit better with my style, but also the elements that I'm using for my cards today. So I've layered everything up with the white cardstock like I mentioned before, and then I've picked this big giant ephemera, and that's going to put a big element on the card instead of the oval. So there's card 3, another thank you card. For card number 4, the pattern paper element, or in this case the textured paper element for me, is a big 5 1/4 by 4 backing panel. And then there is an element that you add to the card that's intended to be a matting layer and then white. So really you have full flexibility about what you want to use here. So I've cut out my little white rectangle and I've done my banner, and I'm now trying to figure out what am I going to layer up onto the white. And again, I went to my trusty supporting paper, which is the craft. So I think this all matches in really quite well. And then I've got another one of my Lawn Fawn Magic Messages with You Make Me Smile. For card number 5, it's got these 3 paper strips and then they're layered up on some white. Of course, I'm adding my trusty craft. And then I'm looking at this layout here and I was trying to work out what would I use for the horizontal. So across the horizontal, there's not a piece of pattern paper from the original 6 pieces. And so I decided just to take a completely different approach to this. And I had these little hello dies that I had already pre-done that were in my stash that were in blue and white, and most of everything else, especially the ephemera, was in sort of pinks and greens. So rather than have something clash, I used these little extra clouds that I had in my little stash box and the hello, and it looks very different to the other cards, but I really like card number 5. On to card number 6, and you can see on the screen I've already put my craft layer, and then there's the 2 pieces of pattern paper. So with some layering and just again adding some white cardstock at the back, I will then go through and search through my ephemera and find something that I'm going to add as the key design element on this particular card. You will notice with some of these cards, what I prepare during this stage versus what they end up like when I do the completed card is slightly different. And that's because when I'm putting them together, I might change my mind about which of the flowers I think looks better, or maybe I switch out the sentiment. But along the way, I'd probably say about 60% of them stay the same, and then about 40% of them I do change. So this one does look the same and is another thank you card. For card number 7, I really like this design. It's so simple, but it really does add a really great level of interest to the card. And I do think this is one that I will use again. I have quite a few scraps from other projects, and I love the fact that those 2 squares on the left-hand panel that I'm just creating here, they're 1 3/4 by 1 3/4. So if you have some really odd shaped pattern papers, cutting it down to that size would be pretty straightforward. And then with a simple strip of paper, you've really covered quite a lot of the front of the card, and it's really using small elements. So I think this would be a fantastic scrap busting card sketch. All right, so I'm fiddling around here, trying out multiple different flowers, trying to decide which one I think is going to work the best and which sentiment combination. You will notice that for this one, I completely changed it when I put things together, and I picked these really pretty eucalyptus leaves. For card number 8, this one really showcases the really pretty paper from Tonic Studios, and in particular the rose gold and the mint combination. So it's a little fiddly because you do have 6 triangles that you need to line up, but I think the little elements of the paper means in the end, something that looks like quite a simple card is a little bit more interesting and has something to catch your eye. So I'm just going to do another white layer here for this. And then all I need to do is add a sentiment. You can see in the sketch that the sentiment is a circle. So I did try to hold true to that with my selection. This little sentiment that says, "You're brilliant, keep doing that." It really is one of my favorites to use as an encouragement card. And it just suits the layout. You'll see here that I then turned this into a Christmas card by doing a Christmas bauble with a Merry Christmas. I just think that matches in really nicely. And I did use a pen to draw in the string. Okay, on to card number 9, and card number 9 and 10 are very similar. I really struggled with this card layout. I could not work out how I was going to add something at the top left corner of the card and have it look really good. I just could not do it. I tried 3 or 4 different things. I just kept picking different baubles, different sizes, and then they weren't covering the little tip of the piece of paper. I think I even tried some squares, which I just left off the video. I've then put another layer underneath to see if that makes a difference so that there's not so much white. But in the end, the thing that made the difference was I swiveled it to be, instead of a vertical card, I turned it into a horizontal card. And that meant that I was able to put an element in the bottom left-hand corner, and it just did not look quite as awkward as trying to put something in the top left. So I really encourage you to fiddle with designs if you need to and see what works for you. This meant it was really easy to do exactly the same thing for card number 10, and I just picked one of these really large posies that would cover up where all those pattern papers meet, and a simple sentiment. So this one is another Christmas card, and this is card number 10. If you're enjoying the video, it'd be fantastic if you could hit the like button. That helps the video spread to more viewers, so thank you in advance. For card number 11, this just has 2 pattern paper strips that go across the bottom. And then they've really designed, a large circle element with a couple of small circles. And funnily enough, the baubles worked absolutely perfectly for this. So you can see here, it's really quite true to the design in the top right-hand corner and allows you to showcase the beautiful pattern papers, and they're so shimmery with texture. And it is a really gorgeous Christmas card. It's kind of amazing that I'm using Kaisercraft products with Tonic Studios and that they really do match that well. They look like they were designed to go together. Moving on to card number 12. Again, this one has the 3 strips of pattern paper, and this is gorgeous. I mean, the rose gold just looks so pretty. It has a bigger border with the white, and I've added a couple of the baubles from the same ephemera pack, and that is card number 12. A quick heads up that I'm going to create some more cards using these same sketches. If you'd like to be notified, make sure you're subscribed and you've already hit the notification bell. For card numbers 13 and 14, these are very similar design using the sunshine rays. And as I'm laying these out, I start to realize the bright blue is just not working well and won't match with the ephemera. So I lay them all out and I'm taking a look at it and I'm thinking I might need to dip into my spare piece of paper that I had put aside at the beginning of this project. So it's a textured paper and shimmery in white. And so I've decided that I'm going to sub out the blue and not use them. I'll save them for another project so they won't go to waste. And I just think the white matches in way better so that I can actually add some design elements to the card without having it competing with what really is a really, really deep blue. Because I did the previous card that had a similar design with the sunshine rays, I already knew or had a good idea about what I wanted to do in the bottom left-hand corner of these cards. So as I was digging through the ephemera, I was really looking for something that wasn't round, so I needed something that had a flat bottom so that it wouldn't fall off the bottom of the card and you wouldn't see where all of those little rays actually combine in that bottom left-hand corner. And these Christmas trees turned out absolutely perfectly. They are absolutely gorgeous. And with a sentiment added to each of them, I decided I didn't need to include any more details other than those. So here's card 13, and then we have card 14. As a reminder, I have put links to all of the products that I've used today in the description box below. Some of them will be affiliate links, which means that I might receive a small commission at no cost to you. For card number 15, I'm trying to get used to the fact that there's a giant gap between that horizontal navy blue stripe, and it just wasn't really working for me. So I decided that I was going to add in some additional detail, and then I created 2 extra strips, shuffled around the order of them so that I liked the way it laid out on the card. And with that slight adjustment, I just created something that I preferred a little better than the original design. I'm trying to keep true to it with this circle in the middle though, and I'm adding a couple of extra elements to the card. I did decide that that stark black circle just wasn't really matching well with the paler colours of the ephemera. So in a moment you'll see that I give up on it and I decide to go a little bit rogue. And even though I think this card does look nice the way it is right here, I take away the circle and I add some extra flowers, and then I'm much happier with the way that that ends up. I also didn't bother to add a specific sentiment because on the card, on the bauble, you can read the believe. And to me, that looks like it's enough for the card to be complete. For card number 16, this is another one of my absolute favourites. There's something about using the strips of pattern paper of the different widths that really appeals to me. I think it's because I know I can use a ton of my scraps, but also it just adds interest and colour to the card without needing to get too fancy with lots of different elements. The colour scheme here with the mint and the white and the pale pink is absolutely gorgeous. And then again, I managed to find a couple of those baubles out of the ephemera pack. They were clearly my favourite part in the ephemera. And with 2 of those added to the card, it just balances it really nicely on the left-hand side. And you can see there I've used a marker just to do the string for those baubles. For card number 17, so this is the final card, I've got this really, really dark blue, and it is interesting that I subbed it out on several of the other cards, but for this one I managed to make it work quite well, I think. I'm just going to put some white paper behind it again to make it stand out, and then I'm going to pick an element from the card ephemera that I think will match with such a bold piece of paper. And in the end, I decided not to go with anything that was too pink. So I've picked the one with the green and the red Christmas berries. And I think this stands out really well against the dark blue. And then I've cut out my little banners. I've done my little fishtails. I have had practice at those thanks to the previous Kendra's card challenges. I do have a playlist of all the previous challenges too that you might want to check out. Here's card number 17. I've put a link here to a video I think you might enjoy. Have a great day.